from the American Gulf Coast, it's the Dave Nemo Show.
I am so thrilled to have Dr. Alan Batteau. He's a cultural anthropologist, professor at Wayne State University Department of Anthropology, and the former director of the university's Institute for Information Technology and Culture. For those of you who are listening to the Dave Nemo Show, you're probably understanding why he might be a wonderful addition to our cultural anthropology. He's the author of The Anthropology of Aviation and Flight Safety, The Anthropological Approaches to Culture, Aviation, and Flight Safety, and numerous other books and articles, including Technology and Culture, a certified private pilot. His research has been funded by the National Science Foundation, the U.S. Air Force, the National Aeronautic and Space Administration, and numerous other corporate and international bodies. He holds a Ph.D. from the University of Chicago, by the way, and he joins us this morning because on his mind is a book that he wrote with Dr. Christine Miller as well called Tools, Totems, and Totalities, the Modern Construction of Hegemonic Technology. And it's our pleasure to welcome him here this morning. Good morning, Dr. Batteau.
Good morning.
Let's get right down to it. So I actually host a show here, the Dave Nemo Show, in which right now the FMCSA has, not the FMCSA, but the DOT and the FMCSA have opened up a wide-ranging comment period for stakeholders in trucking. Asking them what kind of regulations, what kind of things that they want to see less of while they're on the road. The electronic logging device has come up. The speed limiter has come up. Automatic braking systems have come up. So many people who make their living behind the wheel of a truck right now feel as if not only is Big Brother watching, but that the computer inside of their truck is telling them where they can go and what they can do and reading shadows that they're seeing better than the computer is. They feel as if the quote you invoked, things are in the saddle and ride mankind. Things are behind the wheel of a truck. And they're actually riding the drivers. So can you kind of talk about the overall concept of this book, really break it down about our dependency on technology, the brittleness of technology, and all the other groovy stuff you dig into? And good morning.
Good morning. It was very good to be with you. We have several basic points in the book. First of all is to expose the hidden power of technology. Technology is not neutral. It shapes how we live, how we think, how we relate to other people. And modern technology reinforces power structures and limits our democratic possibilities. Okay. Second, we want to critique the myth of progress. Okay, here in America, we kind of think that we're working onwards and upwards, but in fact, we challenge the common belief that technological advancement equals progress. Are we improving our lives or just creating new risks, new inequalities, and new dependencies? And this is the real serious issue. We want to reframe technology as a cultural force. Instead of viewing technology only as tools, we explore it as a totem, a symbolic system that reflects and shapes our values and our identities.
The other thing is, finally, Dr. Batteau, really quickly, I'll let you get to the third point here in a second, but I also want to unpack this too. This is why this book is, in terms of conceptually, so important, because right now in trucking, there are men and women who are really pushing back ferociously because we've almost become aware of the fact that it used to be insidious and now it's over the top. And I don't mean that in an exaggerative form, but that there are people who now realize they are being controlled by this technology. There are millions and millions of people who are becoming more and more aware of what it is you're writing about and looking for solutions that don't just involve smashing things. You kind of provide some possible alternative routes that allow us to keep our technology, but at the same time have it be more human friendly and having it be stuff that we guide rather than guide us. Is that fair?
Yes, quite fair. Yeah. Basically, we need to ask the question: who's controlling the technology? Who is enforcing the use of this technology? And what are their purposes in enforcing it? we would argue that technology is really kind of compounded many challenges in contemporary life, and only by kind of detaching ourselves from this love affair with technology can we look more critically at our contemporary issues.
Can you? There's a term you came up with that a term that you use in the book that I really, really like, and I think a lot of our listeners will like too. Everybody understands that we are becoming more and more narcissistic in our society over time, and I began to make the connection because you guys talked about techno-narcissism. Kind of explain narcissism is, because I think that some of the narcissism that has been so prevalent over the last 20 years has been the product of that techno-narcissism and the technology itself. But explain techno-narcissism.
Okay, fascinating question. There's a book, I think it must be about 20 or 30 years, Christopher Lasch, The Culture of Narcissism. Okay. And his argument is that our society is becoming increasingly narcissistic. And if you doubt that, just look at our politicians. Okay, they are all self-absorbed. Okay, techno-narcissism is this idea that we, worship our tools. We worship our tools and worship ourselves through our tech tools.
So here's my question for you, though. This is what I was kind of beginning to kind of percolate out as I kind of ran into that term. The idea that the narcissism's always been there. I mean, there's a reason it's been there. I mean, we get the name from a Greek myth. But that being said, how have we have these technologies really accelerated and almost trapped us in a narcissism? The idea that when you can literally have the black box in your pocket that can capture every moment of your life and then allow you to study that moment in your life and to then go back and create a false nostalgia where you actually alter the image to make it look like something even better than what happened. Is the technology designed to literally rope us into a narcissistic loop?
Let me answer that with the question: who puts that black box in your pocket? Okay. Who designed the black box? Who created its capabilities? And why are you so enamored of having this black box in your pocket? This kind of goes back to George Orwell's 1984. The black box is the eyes and ears of Big Brother. Okay. And Big Brother, as Orwell put it, Big Brother is watching, but now we carry around Big Brother in our pockets. Okay. And partly because we worship technology. We kind of think it's a god.
All right, we got to take a quick break here, and this is really interesting because when we come back, I'm gonna leave the question with you, so that when we come back after our commercial spots, we can then kind of dig into the question of brittleness, because there seems to me, when you talk about brittleness, a real danger there, but a real possibility of something kind of emerging from that. Guys, by the way, if you just want to jump in and make a comment here, you can do it at 615-292-6366. Our good friend Phone Master Dre will take us now into a break. We'll come back on the other side, continue our conversation with Dr. Alan Batteau. The name of the book is Tools, Totems, and Totalities, The Modern Construction of Hegemonic Technology. Really worth a read. We'll be right back.
The mission of Wreaths Across America is unwavering, remembering our fallen heroes, honoring those who are currently serving, along with their families, and most importantly, teaching the next generation about the value of freedom. And you can join our mission with a $17 donation that sponsors a fresh Maine Balsam Remembrance Wreath. Each wreath will be laid in honor of a veteran who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. To sponsor your wreath, please visit wreathsacrossamerica.org. That's wreathsacrossamerica.org.
At Creek Carrier Corporation, we have some exciting news. We just raised pay for drivers. Because of our safe and on-time service, we're able to raise pay, and you can be part of that too. We're looking for safe, experienced drivers. Freight is up, and so is our pay for new drivers at Creek Carrier and Schaefer Trucking. Come join us and work with some of the best customers in the business and drive for a company that appreciates what you do. Go to creekcarrier.com and find out more. Come join us today.
Those highway signs, Lord.
I think about giving it up sometimes, but I keep on going. I look over the clock and see that it says 7:16, and that keeps me going. I hope it keeps you guys going. Multi-service fuel card has been helping fleets manage fuel spend since 1978. Over-the-road trucking companies trust them to provide quality customer service, generous lines of credit, and a nationwide network. That's going to apply to our conversation here in a second. Nationwide network of fuel-saving truck stop locations. Dr. Alan Batteau joins us again. Glad to have him back here. Please, if you get a chance, I want you guys to find the book. It is wonderful. It is Tools, Totems, and Totalities, the Modern Construction of Hegemonic Technology. Welcome back, Dr. Batteau. When I asked you the question before, I wanted you to talk about brittleness and to kind of unpack that term for us, but also talk about how it applies to technology. And then if you could expand upon the idea of creating technology to fix bad technology and so forth and so on.
Perfect question. Okay, I've started. There's a new book by Jennifer Palgrave. The title is Recoding America. Okay, and she's talking about technology in government. Okay, and we can elaborate this to corporate technology as well. Basically, brittleness is kind of susceptibility to failure. Okay, and there's a classic book by Charles Perrault, Normal Accidents. Normal accidents. Okay, and Perrault's basic point, which kind of has stood the test of time, is that when a system is complex and tightly coupled, accidents happen. Okay, complex and tightly coupled. Okay, because complex means you can't really predict everything. Okay, and tightly coupled means that when things go wrong, they quickly ramify throughout the system. Now, he developed this from analysis of the 3 Mile Island nuclear reactor accident, and it's been applied to many others, and I've written about flight safety and used his ideas as well. Okay, that we, in our love affair with technology, we overlook the fact that we are creating more brittle systems, okay, because they're complex and tightly coupled.
Let me ask this as a way of, this is me asking a question for my better understanding. The idea that when you build a system that is flawed or you build a system that has serious issues with it, and rather than scrapping the system and starting anew, what you try to do is then create a series of patches. The original system is the basic foundation of it, and if it's brittle, it means the foundation is brittle, which means no matter how tight or well constructed what happens above it happens, that it is almost systemically designed to fail. The idea that if the basic first choices are not solid, they in fact lead to, no matter how well built anything else is, a cascading effect that destroys the whole system with the slightest push. How did I do?
Very good. And I will add that those patches add to the complexity of the system. Because patches on top of patches just makes for a more complex system. And when things go wrong, you have to kind of, like an archaeologist, unearth kind of the buried challenge of what went wrong.
The other thing is, it's so interesting to me too, and there's a term that I'm going to use, calcification. The idea that if you're building these systems this complex and this tightly wound, what you're also doing is that the system itself ceases to exist. And you mentioned fossils, so that what ends up happening, and we're blowing JS here, by the way, we're going to get to practical examples here in a second, but the idea is that if you build the system too tightly wound, too built on previous attempts, too built on trying to get right what you got wrong in the first place, what you end up doing is having a patient with I guess a form that is huge. The problem is none of it is solid. So it's almost like when you find the fossil, it isn't the thing itself. It is the replication of the thing itself, and then it breaks down. The moment you start pushing and prodding it, that the damage becomes widespread and total. Okay, I got completely in the weeds there. Are you able to do anything with that?
I would say that fossil is a good metaphor for much of our technology. And we think of fossils as ancient things, but fossils are a foundation as well.
Okay, Then I am making sense. I am making sense of this. So the other question, Doctor, that I wanted to kind of get into is more modern technology, in the sense that our concept, and by the way, you were quick to point out that a fork is technology, a shovel is technology. You're quick to kind of point out the fact that technology has been with us for a long time, but this kind of worship of technology, the sense that the technology always makes things better, because it's an ongoing debate in the trucking industry that top-down solutions are being imposed upon truck drivers, mandating certain technology to be inside trucks, and there has been finally a little bit of pushback in Congress telling the executive branch it can't just make these sort of wholesale determinations for what goes on inside of a truck based on one person's theory of what might be safe, while at the same time profiting those who invent these technologies. And that's one of the biggest questions in the book, is who is profiting from this? I mean, there are numerous moments, and I'd like you to give some examples of following the money, because the money often is what's driving some of this, as opposed to just an attempt to make people's lives better, correct?
Correct, yeah. Listen, the question of who is profiting and who's imposing, you go back to kind of where this is coming from. And one big issue is the increasing inequality of American society. Inequality doesn't just mean inequality of money, it means inequality of power. Okay. And I would argue that American society over the last 20, 30 years has become less democratic, okay, because we talk about the 1%, the top guys on top, and then the 99%. The 99% have less and less power, and partly because we have invested in technology which benefits the 1%.
This is interesting too, Doctor, because the other thing is the fact that some of this stuff is not making our life easier. Some of this stuff is, in fact, not only not making our life easier, it's divorcing us from the thing itself, correct? I mean, the idea that...
Yes, correct.
And what is also happening is that one of the book's critiques that I really enjoyed, and I think a lot of our listeners who work in this section of transportation know, is that one of the growing frustrations over the last couple of decades is the cult of technobabble, where people ask for explanations, right? They ask for, how does this thing work? And the person starts talking, and literally you can watch the other person's eyes glaze over. And it's almost designed to create a language that is deliberately meant to prevent access from the very people who are using these products from really understanding how they work. And the critique really here is, I mean, ironically, I said this is an argument against technobabble, right?
Yes. Okay. And kind of to extend that, we have been very creative in coming up with new forms of technobabble. I mean, this is not something I've done research on, and I've got some linguist friends who would like to do research. But basically, I would argue, agreeing with you, is that technobabble hides some of the issues and challenges of technology.
Well, we've created a Mandarin and a power class. I mean, and that is in the book, by the way. You really kind of unpack that, the idea that we've created a class of people who are essentially gatekeepers for this technology that is supposed to make us free, supposed to make us more productive while giving us more time off, when in fact it's only creating more work, and that this. You talk about the idea of reading the entrails, and we talk about the idea of the stock market collapsed in 2008, and in the housing collapse back then, though. But all of this stuff is just a new form of almost like high priests, and that these people are functioning like high priests. And like I said, there's a real criticism here of the power elite in regards to Silicon Valley and all that other stuff. Correct?
Very correct. Yes, and I would not. The word priest is a little bit extreme because we don't pray to them, but maybe we do. Maybe we worship as these mandarins of technology.
I'll tell you what's interesting, though. We say we don't worship at it, and I said, you're probably right. And then I thought about everybody sitting around the kitchen table and everybody hooked into the black box rather than talking to one another. In the limited time we have left here, I would love you to kind of give our listeners some hope here, because you do explore the possibilities that there are, and I hate to use the term user-friendly, there are more human, more breathable places that we can go while still having technology that makes our lives better. Can you just touch on that a little bit?
Okay, the word we use, and I think we probably need to elaborate on this more, is convivial, technology that connects. Okay, in perfect metaphor that you brought up about sitting around the kitchen table with our little cell phones in our hands rather than talking to each other. We really need to rediscover the value of conviviality, of the value of personal connections. Okay. Because technology, we would argue, is undermining connections. Technology is replacing conviviality with, I have to come up with a word for this, kind of life on the screen.
I agree with that completely, by the way. It's really funny, too. Somebody once made a great comment to me about listening to a podcast. Listening to a podcast while rejecting spending time with your friends is a very different experience than a group of friends sitting around and listening to that podcast, because that sets up a parasocial relationship in one case. In the other case, it's about a social relationship engaging with a parasocial relationship. Doctor, we could go on forever. At some point, you and I will get a chance to talk again. But thank you so much for your time this morning. Let me do this one more time for the sake of sanity for everybody listening. Tools, Totems, and Totalities, the modern construction of hegemonic technology. Dr. Alan Batteau, Dr. Christine Z. Miller have written this book. If you're somebody who is, struggling onboarding technology into your company or into your life or into your human interaction, you might want to give this book a look. You might not be the one who's to blame. It might be the technology itself and the techno-narcissists who are pushing it upon you. Thank you, my friend. Go have the best of days, okay?
Thank you. Looking forward to our further conversation.
Thank you, sir. We'll be back on the other side of this with Tara the Turtle. It's Tara's Tidbits coming your way on The Dave Nemo Show. Hey, guys, go to RadioNemo.com and YouTube. Find us on the tube of you at Radio Nemo. Subscribe. It don't cost you nothing to subscribe. Newsletters, content, all kinds of groovy stuff.